I'm going to grab the mic now away from Chris, and we're going to talk about the schools that also won awards, because we had to separate them from districts. It's not fair to compete them up with the district. So we awarded quite a few schools, and we're going to talk to them for the next half hour. So let me just go through kind of who they were and what happened with them. So I don't know for sure I'm going to say this right. Abiquiu Elementary School, Abiquiu, New Mexico, for a gainer for building common understanding of what the school experience can and should be, addressing emerging issues, utilizing diverse tech tools, including IWBs, interactive whiteboards, drones, and other ed tech. So well done, Abiquiu. And then Atlantic Shores Christian School, we do pick privates sometimes as well as charters. Intentional ed tech tactics and professional development to grow staff capabilities, aware of key trends and pressures with intentions to address with specific programs. And that's kind of cool. All right, Classical Academy in Escondido, California, that using a lot of really key programs, some of the most advanced thinking I know of. Drones, ProGrad, CTR, VR, interactive whiteboards, more technologies to stay competitive and responsive. And really, if you know Classical Academy, they're one of the only places we know of in California where they're really talking fully personalized, not synchronous pathways, which is really awesome. And then Clifton Middle School in Houston, Texas, for utilizing blended or flipped grade class course structure, and 50 to 75% of what they're using is discrete digital resource pieces, which changes that whole dynamic of learning, makes it more student-centered. And then the Diocese of San Diego, online teacher inductions, institutional-wide use of Google Docs and Canvas learning management system. They have competitive hackathons, which I'd only really seen in person once before in my life over in New Jersey, and unique maker and garden spaces, which I'm really encouraging people to start thinking about in all schools. And then distinctive excellence level, our highest honor went to Dream Academy of Newport Richey, Florida. They're very trend aware and working to meet emerging student expectations for flexibility, utilizing various tech tools with a good degree of integration between systems and apps, personalized workflow, bold change with instructional staff, and they actually have a dynamic hybrid high flex structure. Grace Baptist Academy in Miami, Florida, individual plans for all our students, which is great, utilizing courseware, social emotional system, digital inventory, and a learning management system. This is really advanced. You don't really see this in a lot of the private schools. All right, and then eCollier Virtual Academy in Naples, Florida. Florida seems to be picking up a lot of awards this year, utilizing digital tools in a hybrid environment to provide more student flexibility. Hillsborough High in Nashville, Tennessee, gains on using their various digital systems and resources with changed practice, offering specialized services as outreach to students and parents with unique needs. And then one of my all-time faves, good friend of mine, Permission to Succeed, a learning center from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for innovative changes in the use of space and time to address a diverse population of students of different ages with attentive teaching and digital learning using high-value courseware. Now, Permission is not going to be on this half hour, but they're going to join us for our hybrid logistics briefing for you. We're really excited about them and what they're doing, and we're hearing a lot of good is happening with their students. Ridgeview Global Studies Academy in Davenport, Florida, active use of interactive whiteboards, audio enhancement, core and supplemental courseware, student coding apps, robotics, esports, ProGrade, CTE, and learning management systems. This is an honorable mention for Ridgeview, who's coming a long way. And then Virtual Schoolhouse in Meridian, Idaho, forward-thinking programs with courseware, robotics, esports, ProGrade, CTE, their LMS. I mean, you can see they have a really long list of tech that they have in play, which is fantastic. And they're also offering dual enrollment, online electives, summer programs, and parent tech training. So it's the parent tech training that really catches our attention when we're evaluating who we want to be given an award of, because that community spirit is so essential right now in attracting students and retaining them. Okay, so I believe we have with us right now, we're missing Letitia, but we have Matthew. Hi, Matthew. I see you're on. And we also have Jay. Matthew Cordes,
Yep.
Associate Superintendent of Diocese of San Diego. One of my
Hello.
favorite. Hi, nice to have you. One of my favorite cities in the world.
Thank you. Yeah, it's gorgeous out here. We kind of laugh when the guy it says 6 more weeks of winter, and out here that's perfectly fine with us.
I understand. And then we also have Jay Fike, who's the assistant principal CNI, which I don't know what CNI stands for you. Curriculum and instruction, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, good. eCollier Academy. Awesome to have you. You want to introduce yourself a little bit, like where this is and everything about you?
Sure. We, like many of virtual programs around the country, were born out of the pandemic, but have a long-term vision of making sure that we can allow students to meet their full potential through digital innovation and our program. Collier County is located in Southwest Florida, almost parallel to Miami. And our program is really important in our public school community because geographically, our county is the largest in Florida. Collier County is actually larger than Rhode Island or Delaware. So it encompasses a large swath of land. And because of that, some of our students on the fringes of our county do struggle with access and equity. So our program really helps to bridge that gap.
That's great. I hear that same kind of talk when we talk to the people in North Dakota or Wyoming or South Dakota. They got kids that 150 miles from any school buildings, living out on big farms, kind of a thing. So you've got this really big geographic area, and you had to service it. So this is well done on you. So I got a lot of questions for the two of you. Matthew, can you give me a little bit more of an introduction to you and what you guys are all about?
Yeah, so we have 45 Catholic schools in the county of San Diego and Imperial Valley, ranging from high school to preschools. We have around 15,000 students. It is a wide and diverse population of students. We really try to accept anyone who wants a Catholic education. Looking at that piece, we really do value the autonomy of our schools and being able to go out and make those pieces. And that's why I think we get to see a lot of those pieces. And so that when you talked about those, all the different pieces, all the different kind of descriptions of our diocese, those are really schools taking on their own pathways and their own learning. We do have some programmatic stuff, but more importantly, it's about giving that space for school to be able to breathe a little bit and say, what is it that we really want to do and where do we want to head with this? So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to be.
Yes, awesome. And I'm really excited about the sophistication you have going. You've started to really think through the kind of things we really, a couple of years ago, we were only seeing really big public districts doing. So that's awesome. And well on you. Okay, so my questions for you are really like your journey, right? Maybe not as an individual, maybe as an individual too, but the journey of your organization to get to where you are. Can we start with that? So I'm going to go to you first, Jay, if you don't mind, the journey.
Yeah, I think it is both a deeply personal journey and a collective effort. I've always been intrigued by innovation and trying to be on that cutting edge. I tried to incorporate those things for digital technology and just.
We lost you, Jay.
So I always wanted to make that transition into virtual learning. It's something that's always intrigued me. So, for that reason, it is a personal journey to be able to be a part of eCollier Virtual Academy. And then the other part of it really, it's a great collective experiment at the same time. So having that input and having a diverse group of people come together to build something was important. This year we've definitely scaled back in our program. Honestly, every year the program looks a little bit different, but more and more that I talk to people who run virtual schools around the country and especially in the state of Florida, I find that that's not that unique, actually. Every year truly is almost like a restart, and your cohort of students really do kind of dictate, how that works because of their pace and their individualism, which is refreshing. So yeah, we started as a school of over about 1,000. We had about 1,200 kids. Every year we've kind of reduced those numbers and it's gotten smaller. But that's okay. That's as kids have gone back to their traditional schools, and we've had this very nice cohort now of kids who really, the way I always put it is eCollier Academy exists because students and families want us and students and families need us. And both of those things are very true depending on the situation. So we're happy to serve for those families, especially that need us. Like I was talking about before, the equity piece is very important to our program, and also just for other reasons. Families have a variety of reasons, whether it's extracurricular activities or personal choice or health, that they choose our program. So as we've evolved, we've always stayed student-centered and student first. And probably the thing I'm most proud of is the fact that we last year, as kind of just a one-off, we did, as we transitioned out of our hybrid pandemic model, we had 18 students with varying disabilities, whether it's behavior, physical, or mental, that were part of our program and were very successful. And we felt that was something it was important for those students to continue to receive their services if they were in a position where there were barriers to that. So that was just something we really hung our hat on last year, was all the teachers got involved in that. And it was really a big part of our hybrid learning to bring something to exceptional education. And for some of our students who had some barriers and would not have been able to participate fully in their education if it weren't for eCollier.
Yeah, very well done. And I think maybe I would say that you've right-sized to what the community needs. Because, coming out of the pandemic, people were like, well, what am I doing now? What's happening? Is it over? We don't even know. It's been a weird moment.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to steal that, actually.
Yeah, right. You're right-sizing.
Yes, I like right-sizing.
But also, I think what I want to ask you is, are you completely independent then from your districts? Or do they sort of is it all or nothing, right? Because the way I've often seen districts operate is like you're either always in the building or you're over here. You can't be both. There's no, I'm over here, but then I take some of my courses over there. Is there any discussion about this, or where does that stand for you, Jay?
Yeah, there is just, yeah, there is discussion of that. We're in a little bit of a flux right now because we're in the middle of a superintendent search. So we have an interim superintendent at the time being. So I think it'll very much be dependent on, who is in that seat and driving some of our programs, obviously. But we are having a real discussion about that of, can we have more of an adjunct faculty look to our virtual program and have kids that are part in, part out. Right now it is an all or nothing. However, our district does a great job of building a very good infrastructure for digital technology and for things that we can offer kids. That's one of the attractions and why we're successful as a public school in the virtual world, is because the amount of resources that our district has and provides. So kids and families still really like being associated and attached to the district, but having the flexibility of the virtual program.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot I could ask about on that one, and good luck with the finding of a superintendent. I think 30% of the districts are looking for one right now, so it's kind of a fight, right? Who are you gonna get? It looks like Matthew had, he tested and he had an emergency, he had to go. And we didn't get Letitia on. So if we're going to focus in on you today, Jay, and then I'm going to pull Chris McMurray back in and we can have just overall dialogue with the rest of our audience. I think Florida is a unique state. Did you notice how many other Florida districts and schools won this year from us?
Yes,
Yeah.
and in 2021 as well, there were a few I saw that were recognized, and I know it's a great networking group. I've learned a lot from a lot of my peers around the state about virtual education this year.
Yeah, what's in the water down there? What are you guys drinking? Like something's going on in Florida. Like awesomeness abounds.
I think honestly, it's really just that vision of flexibility and what that looks like, and looking at it from a business perspective, our clientele drives a lot of that. I firmly believe that. We have a bit of a transient population being in a southern state, and there's a lot of things that are attractive to being in Florida. No state income tax and things like that. So it's a place where a lot of people have part-time homes or second homes, and there's a lot of migrant families that travel up and down the East Coast. So it's already kind of wherever you are on the scale of socioeconomic group, it's already sort of baked into the culture. And so a lot of the people that already live in Florida, the idea of flexibility and that transient nature of things. So I think it's just something that a lot of school districts in Florida and a lot of the charter schools and private schools that are offering virtual education in Florida are really, tapping into and are aware of.
Mm-hmm. Have you, as an organization, actually sort of gone through the definition of what you mean by online education? I mean, did it, I don't know if this is a philosophical question or if it's just an, organizational exercise in what are we from an online education perspective, but can you tell me kind of like the parameters, like this is K through 12, this is all these subjects and also extracurricular, these, coding and blah, 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 or whatever. How are you defined?
Yeah, so we're defined K through 12, and we really use a lot of, we rely on a lot of the things from our traditional schools for that, and follow kind of the key practices and expectations of our district's mission and vision. But then we do have some of that license to on the virtual side to really hone in on specifically what our families and our cohort needs. So I think it kind of mirrors that hybrid learning model, right? That we collaborate a lot face to face. We do a lot with our district, and we have that support. And yet we have that flexibility, and we really do use the tools around us for the best outcomes for our students. And
then in the online model, then is it synchronous or asynchronous pathways?
So it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I would say looking at what is most effective. It's interesting, I jumped on a little bit early, and I was listening to Joelle from Scholastic talk, and I think a lot of the things that she was referencing are things that we learned year one, and we're really trying to refine going into last year of, it can't be clickbait. It can't be something that just captures attention in little chunks of time. It has to be something that the kids feel part of a digital classroom, and they feel connected with each other. So therefore, just talking about that, it has to be synchronous, right? You have to have that piece. So we ran everything through, even if we used other LMSs for our secondary kids, where they had more asynchronous content, we still have opportunity for WebEx meetings and weekly live lessons, and opportunities for the kids to connect socially. We've lost some some staff this year, so we've lost the ability that we had. We had a digital after school club that was really successful last year, especially K through 5. Those kids wanted to stay connected and kind of reconnect for some of them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for some of the things that they missed about traditional school and the social piece. So we set up some digital clubs for kids to join and participate in. And even those, we did some of those things. If you go in and look at some of our archived stuff, you know, kids came in person. We had kindergarten roundup and things like that the kids were here on campus for. So I would say it just kind of ran the whole spectrum. You know, there were times that they were here for things like awards night and those clubs and tutoring. And then there were things that we did through video conferencing that were synchronous. And then some of it was recorded content and pushed out through Canvas or through the franchised, you know, content that we used for more asynchronous for some of our older students.
Awesome. Yeah, well, this gets into this whole issue of space and time, right? So I kind of want to go down a little rabbit hole with you because we have a few minutes. And in the meanwhile, ask all my attendees, raise your hand, please, so I can see it if you want to jump in on this conversation. But I'm going to ask Jay about the complexity of what you just said. Because during the pandemic, we got calls from all over the country saying this is hard because we don't want to lose the human intersection between teachers and students, but the traditional block schedule when you go to virtual is wonky. It's not working to keep 7-year-olds on for an hour, right? How do we do this? And then you had this other permutation, which, like you said, when you're in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, up to fifth, probably, right? Your reason for living is social, right? The only reason you go to school is not the subjects, right? It's to play on the playground, right? So the intersection, the interaction is age specific in many instances, right? So now you come here to you as an online school. And what I'm really asking you is there any struggle with that master scheduling? Like asynchronous here, synchronous there, got to get people together. This is complicated, which is what we were addressing when we talked about what hybrid logistics was. So I can tell you about that, but first I want to hear your answer.
Yeah, I think it is the logistics of a master schedule, K through 12. And specifically when you really, obviously what I just spelled out is kind of that inverse pyramid of synchronous to asynchronous, right? Going through from elementary, middle to high. So especially as you pointed out, the elementary level got complicated with the amount of synchronous time that the students had. And then where do you match that up with giving them time to actually digest the information that you're working on with them in person or through a video conference? And so, you know, the chunking of time, I think, is the hardest thing to really see in the schedule. So what made it easier for me was really the departmentalization of our staff. And honestly, really all the credit goes to the staff, because if you don't, I should really start there. If you don't have people that buy in and are willing to think outside the box and change up, you know, where they're putting their time and effort into, as a digital leader and as a, you know, virtual educator, that's where I think it really gets wonky, is because then there's that it's happening in different spaces at different levels and it doesn't look right. But having a really unified team that worked well in their collaboration and then being willing to hand off pieces of it. And so, you know, for instance, the related arts team realized that social piece that we're talking about, why elementary kids really come to school. Well, sometimes that's really that RA, you know, wheel anyway. So we really kind of gave our teachers a broad spectrum to work within of, look, don't, it doesn't have to be so many assignments or, this for a grade. We really use that related arts piece for more of that socialization and time to really bring the kids together. And then that helped free up the things that we had to fit into specific boxes for the learning piece, and, making sure we're covering all the standards and they're getting appropriate exposure for their age level for literacy and math. So
was this sort of an
compartmentalization.
so compartmentalization, was this sort of an ongoing tweaking of time and space block? Well, how much are we going to do here all year? How
Yeah,
like what
yeah.
I'm listening to is like it was constant on your plate.
Yeah, it was fluid. It was very fluid. And I think part of that was the post-pandemic piece, because the couple of years previous to that were, we had, I guess I should say, families came into it thinking, oh, it's just like, when we went into lockdown and, we had a classroom, basically just, it was, online, and the teacher was always there, and we wrote everything down and we submitted it. It was just very, you were trying to find your way as you went anyway. So I think that played partly into it, is because part of it was breaking down that mindset of what virtual learning was, going back to, your previous question of defining it. First, you have to define it. So it took us a good chunk of onboarding at the beginning of the year to really help define what we were and what we were not for our kids and our families. And then the other piece that might be unique to us, I'm sure other schools do it in a variety of ways, but we required families to designate an e-learning coach for their child. So there had to be an adult that was the go-to person and always accessible to do that. And I say that because that helped with some of where the scheduling did get wonky and maybe it didn't work out. It was nice to have that e-learning coach at home who was getting supported by the teacher to help fill in some of those gaps, or, if we ran out of time, or, something didn't work synchronously, something that could be handed off asynchronously. So it really was very fluid. It was something that almost, we dedicated probably one of our PLC times, every other week, just, looking at it and, what do we need to, it was like a living organism, what do you do to keep it alive? And we would revisit that almost bi-weekly.
Yeah, I love everything that you're saying, and I hope that you stay on. We're gonna hear from our award-winning company this year, because we don't just award schools, we award companies next. But after that, we're going to talk about hybrid logistics, and I hope that you stay for it, Jay.
I saw it on the agenda. Yes, I
yeah.
intend to pop in.
Yeah, because in my mind, what just ran through my mind was there's a potentiality that, because everything was new and you guys were like, let's do it, right? Pandemic, blah, blah, blah. There could have been some experiences that weren't optimum, right, by the learners. And the dynamics between you and your district could be better. Love to talk to the superintendent about that for you. But I think it's for lack of knowing about this new technology to create that for you, because it sounds to me like you did it, but it was, like you said, fluid, and you're lucky you had such great people. What good on you, and good on you for leadership to get through all that and have the students you have today and be serving the community you have today.